Welcome back, football fanatics, to the First and 10 Club with me, your host, Mark D, as we are set to start to look at week 7 in the NFL. The good news is, as of right now, knock on wood, no COVID rumblings. This week we get to watch the NFC East beat up on each other. That should be thrilling. At least there'll be wins, hopefully. God, hopefully it's not two ties. Um, and then, of course, we have to see an undefeated team fall as the undefeated Titans take on the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a possibility by the end of this weekend there will be only one undefeated team left in the NFL, but I don't foresee that happening. Just to give you a little preview into who I like for the week. With that being said, it is our Thursday show where we talk about players that I like, players I don't like. We talk about some bold predictions, some game picks, and we get you ready for the weekend. And then, of course, you can come back on Tuesday for our Week 7 recap show where we see what I got right and what I got wrong. So, all right, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about some plays that I like for the week. And with buys this week, it's very important or very likely that you're looking for defenses to stream this week. And there's actually 2 of them out there, borderline 3 in all honesty, but I'm going to tell you to stay away from one of them. So 2 of the defenses that I like this week are from the garbage NFC East. One of them is the Washington football team. Believe it or not, although it hasn't always shown up points-wise, the Washington football team has been very, very respectable so far this week. And what we saw on Monday night is Dallas is a hot mess right now. You have coaches being called out by players, and we're gonna talk a lot about the Cowboys throughout this show, but the biggest mess on that team, though, right now was their offensive line. That offensive line just looked like it had no clue. And I get they're going to have another week of practice, but they've lost so many starters. It's the theme for the NFC East. It's what garbage offensive line holds together the best in order to win the division. And that's really what it's going to come down to. But Washington has a stout front four. And I actually have to say, with what happened last week, Washington's offensive line kind of came together a little bit. They got Brandon Schreff back, so it really solidifies the right side with Morgan Moses and him. Chase Real he's not an all-pro. He's not a Pro Bowler, but he's not a horrible center. And what ended up happening was they moved they wanted to put Atlantic Charles, our rookie, at right guard. Well, he ended up dislocating his kneecap, but it moved Wes over. Anyway, the offensive line for the Redskins just looked a little bit better last week. So what I'm getting at here, though, is Dallas's was crap, and I think Washington really exploits that this week. I think they are smart enough to watch what Cardinals did, and I think they're going to just see more of that. And honestly, I felt bad for Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's just not a mobile quarterback really anymore. He had defenders in his lap all day. They were not picking up blitz coverages. With the coaching issues in Dallas right now, I think that's a good avenue. That's a team that I liked if you have to stream a defense. Another one from the NFC East is the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, the Eagles' defensive line is still probably the strongest thing on that team. And they're playing the New York Giants, who also have a crap offensive line. And I definitely think they take advantage of that. The defense in Philly always has been opportunistic. I believe you're going to see Philadelphia get some plays this week. Again, Washington's defense basically shut down the Giants last week. We gifted them that win. But a win's a win, and it is what it is. But I think Philly's defense is, in terms of playmaking, we're not talking talent, we're talking playmaking. It's something Philly teams just seem to do. I would like them in a streaming option also. And then the easy one, this is the layup, and everybody deserves a layup. I doubt they're out there, but if you're playing daily fantasy and you want to pay up, the Buffalo Bills going up against the New York Jets. Do you want to know the worst part about this? In one of my leagues, because it's a dynasty league and there are just not players available, every single one of my starting quarterbacks are on buys this week. That means that I had to pick up Joe Flacco. It's going to be a long week. But enough about that. Quarterbacks that I like. Heading into quarterbacks that I like, Flacco was not one of them. Matt Stafford going up against Atlanta. Atlanta looked really energized last week, but even looking energized, Kirk Cousins still was able to carve them up in garbage time and pad those numbers, and I believe Stafford will be able to do exactly the same. Justin Herbert, I love that matchup against Jacksonville this week, coming off of the bye. I like what I'm seeing from him. I know he's not a good chance he's not going to have Keenan Allen this week. That's all right. I like Williams. I like Guyton. But when we get through our list here, you're going to see who I like even more this week to break out. But I think the offensive players for the LA Chargers are a good buy this week. And then the last one, and this is going to be a recurring theme throughout the show too, but love me some discount double check Aaron Rodgers this week. I cannot see him having 2 bad games in a row. And he's going up against a team that I believe he can absolutely get healthy against in the Houston Texans. This could be a shootout. The last I checked, the over-under on this was 56 points. Go over. Go over on this game. You saw it last week between the Titans and the Texans, and you're just going to see more of it. I also like Brandon Cooks in relation to this game, and we'll get to that when we get to the wide receivers. So, yeah, I'm jumping ahead. But let's not get out of order. Let's look at running backs. So running backs that I'm high on for this week and why. Love me some Kareem Hunt. No Chubb yet. I think it was pretty. It's been made clear here. The running back in this backfield to own and is going to get the lion's share of the work is Hunt, and they're going up against a Cincinnati Bengals team that dramatically struggles to stop the run. I expect to see a huge week out of Kareem Hunt this week. I'm talking, you're still having, I'm not saying they're as banged up as before, but I think they rely on the run. They lean back on that again. This is a game that they can kind of control the game a little bit with the running game. I can see this isn't one of my bold predictions. However, you know what? No, we're going to make this a bold prediction, and I will get to that when we get to that point. But there will be a bold prediction with Kareem Hunt this week. I love Alvin Kamara this week. Alvin Kamara is in an absolute smash spot. He is going to go off this week. This isn't, I know Carolina's looked a little bit better against running backs lately. Alvin Kamara is not a normal running back. This is just a Swiss Army knife weapon. And this is a game where I can see him having easily 5 receptions out of, off of 8 targets. I believe at this point they're going to have Thomas back. That's going to take focus away from Kamara. This is a smash spot for Alvin Kamara this week, and I fully expect him to go off against the Carolina Panthers. So we said we were going to talk about the Jacksonville LA Chargers game a lot. So Jacksonville is very beatable when it comes to running backs. But I'm going Justin Jackson this week. I think Justin Jackson is going to end up getting the better stat line this week, and here's why. I believe the LA Chargers jump out to a lead in this game. And once they get that lead, I believe they just hammer the ball home. And I think that's the Justin Jackson role. I think he is going to have that hammer role where he's just going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. I'm not saying that Kelly's a bad play this week, but of the two, I do think Justin Jackson has a better stat line. So that rolls us into our wide receivers this week. So we talked about the Houston Green Bay game. I expect that game to just be wide open. I know it'd be easy going back to running backs here to pick David Johnson as a play this week. It's not that I expect Green Bay to magically be able to stop running backs. I really believe this game is going to be full throttle, wide open, high flying scoring. And I do believe that you have the Will Fuller card, and everyone's saying, "Oh, Will Fuller." I think this is a Brandon Cooks game. I believe he's going to have a very, very big game. Uh, the other thing is Green Bay seems to be able to take top wide receivers out, and I believe at this point you're looking at Will Fuller as a top wide receiver, at least contain them. So I'm going in this case with Cook for that game. DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins really had an off game last week. We talked about a stat line being salvaged by one big play at the end of the game. That is not going to happen this week against Seattle. This is another game with a very high scoring total, and I do believe that DeAndre Hopkins gets healthy in week 7. He kind of has been quiet lately. I expect that to not be the case anymore. Terry McLaurin of the Washington football team going up against Dallas's porous pass defense. You even saw it last week, even with Allen at QB, he's clicking. The fact of the matter is he doesn't get enough respect in this league, and it's because he plays for Washington. It's because he doesn't have that stability at quarterback. Could you even imagine what this guy would be doing if he was playing with an actual franchise quarterback that was established there? You imagine him in Green Bay with somebody like Aaron Rodgers throwing to him. Can you imagine? Hell, I hate to say it. Could you even imagine him with somebody like Kirk Cousins throwing to him? So this week, I think, is a smash spot for him, though. Terry McLaurin this week. And then a guy that's on track to come back from injury. So this is big to note. But I like Deontay Johnson this week against Tennessee. I think the focus is going to be on Claypool, who seems to be emerging and breaking out. You still have Juju there, and I just expect Deontay Johnson to go. I do. I expect him, if he's healthy, to go back to double-digit targets, and I expect him to catch at least 60% of them, if not 70. So that's 7 receptions. You should be able to get 100 yards out of that, maybe a touchdown, but I like Deontay Johnson this week. Continuing with pass catching, I said we were going to focus on that LA Chargers game. The person I'm looking at in the passing game this week really isn't a wide receiver. I think the person who smashes this week is Hunter Henry. One, has been pretty quiet throughout the year. I just think that Hunter Henry is going to be able to take advantage of Jacksonville. Their defense is just facing injury after injury. Miles Jack is out now, and that really was their coverage linebacker. Safeties really aren't anything special in Jacksonville, so Hunter Henry this week. And then from Dallas, Dalton Schultz. If there's one thing that the Washington football team struggles against, it's covering tight ends, and it's because we really don't have the safeties capable, in my opinion, of covering a tight end. And we also don't. I know Kevin Pierre-Louis has having a great year statistically and even in coverage, but the fact of the matter is he's just not going to match up with athletic tight ends, and Schultz, I believe, fits that mold. So that's who I like for this week. Let's take a look at who I don't like this week. So in team defenses, the two areas that I'm kind of shading away, or the two teams I'm shining away from, one of them is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this has been one of the best defenses so far in 2020. However, Tennessee, it's not that Tennessee is an offensive juggernaut. I don't think they are. But what Tennessee does have is they have these haymaker offensive players. So I think what ends up happening here is, it's not that they're going to just come in there and they're just going to run rumshot over you. Obviously they can with Henry, but you have a guy in Henry he's capable of throwing that knockout punch. He's capable of running, you've seen it. You've seen him break these 80, 85, 90, 95, yard runs for touchdowns. This dude's a big dude. It is literally like a locomotive, and nobody wants to try and, play chicken with the train. And I believe that's what it is. Josh Norman understands that completely. So, and then A.J. Brown is just a man child when it comes to size and capability as a wide receiver. So I don't think this is going to be a typical Pittsburgh Steelers defensive game because Tannehill does seem to protect the ball, seems to make smart decisions in most cases. And I just don't, I'm not saying that it's a bad play. Obviously, if you have them in, season long, you're not dropping Pittsburgh or not starting them, but don't expect a smash spot here from the Pittsburgh defense. And the second game that I'm picking is the Denver Broncos. And look, it's twofold here. One, we've talked about the injuries with Denver. So that's not going to go away. But the other part of this, too, is you're going up against Kansas City, and you just don't ever want to play a defense going up against a Patrick Mahomes-led offense because although these games at times have been close and they've been back and forth, and it's a division game, so there's always that chance of an upset or, the unpopular game script, it's still Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes in any given week can go off for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. And that's just not a defense I want to be invested in. Quarterbacks that I'm shying away from this week. Derek Carr going into your bye. Man, did you have a great, finale heading into, the intermission point of your season. You had a great game prior to the bye. However, you're facing a Tampa Bay defense right now that is really one of the more unheralded and underrated defenses. Maybe not so much anymore, but at the beginning of the season, nobody really was talking about Tampa Bay's defense, not to this capability or not to this level. So I think Carr is going to have a really, really rough week. And talking about quarterbacks going up against defenses that are capable of shutting them down, I'm also going to be out on Goff this week. The LA Rams face the Chicago Bears. And although I'm not picking this game because we all know if I pick this game, it just seems to help Chicago. The one thing that Chicago does have is a great defense, and I do believe they'll be able to keep the LA Rams in check this week. So I'm out on those two. For my running backs that I'm fading this week, it's tonight's game. I'm fading the running backs of Philadelphia and the Giants. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but one, it's the battle of backup running backs. We already know Barkley's gone for the season. Freeman has been coming on a little bit, but he's still not doing anything spectacular or special. And Philadelphia just lost Miles Sanders. So now you're going to get Corey Clement and Boston Scott. Well, here's the one truth and the one thing that is for certain amongst these two teams. Their offensive lines are trash. I just don't feel comfortable really rolling out any of them. Unfortunately, I have to in one of my leagues. It's a league that I'm just decimated by injuries. So, I grabbed some Boston Scott. So maybe he catches some out of the backfield. Who knows? Maybe there's some magic like there was at the end of last season. But this is not a game where I would recommend investing in the running backs, especially if you're playing daily fantasy. Wide receivers. Now, here's going to be an interesting one. We're not taking the easy route on these. Wide receivers. 2 wide receivers I am out on this week. One is Mike Evans of Tampa Bay. For starters, you're starting to see other players step up, and I think this ankle injury is really starting to be more of a factor than you realize. And props to him playing through it at the beginning of the year when they just didn't have the options. But now they do. Godwin's back. You have rookies emerging. You have Scotty Miller. Honestly, I wouldn't be terribly upset. Or maybe it would be in the best interest to sit Mike Evans down for a game or two. I don't know. I'm not the trainer. I don't know exactly what the medical situation is here. But if he is dealing with a high ankle sprain, that's not just going to magically get better. And if you are going to do something this year, if your long-term plans is to compete in the playoffs, potentially make a run at the Super Bowl, you're going to want Mike Evans at the end of the year. So maybe you need to sit him down. But if he plays this week, I'm out. And then the other one had a great week last week. He reemerged. He's back. Julio Jones. Look, I don't think he has a horrible week, but don't chase points. We talk about this all the time. Don't chase points. Julio Jones traditionally has shown that he does not put up these incredible weeks, week after week after week. And I just think this week, even though he's going up against potentially a little bit of an easier matchup with Detroit, I don't see him having the week that he did. I think he goes back to normal Julio Jones. So, maybe he does get 7 catches for 80 yards, and that's not horrible, but I don't see the touchdowns this week. So I'm out on Julio Jones. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but out on Julio Jones this week. And then we go to tight ends. So going back to quarterbacks that I'm out on with David Carr, I'm also out on Waller this week. Tampa Bay is one of the best teams defending the tight end. And I don't see Waller having that type of impact this week. I think they're going to have to go elsewhere. I think you're going to see the no-name group of wide receivers in LV, Las Vegas, kind of pick up the passing game slack. And I just don't think there's going to be a ton of stats in the passing game. Keep in mind, look at what this team did to Aaron Rodgers last week. Derek Carr, you are no Aaron Rodgers, so not putting a lot of faith in the stock of the Raiders passing game. The other tight end that I'm out on this week, surprisingly, but it's a testament to what the team he's facing does. I'm out on Kittle this week. Now, if you have Kittle in season long, you play the guys who get you there. I'm not telling you that you bench Kittle in season long, but you will not see me have any shares of him in DFS. And I know I just said on Tuesday's show, Kittle's the best tight end in the league. He is, but if there's one thing that Bill Belichick does, it takes away the best weapon. So I just have a hard time seeing him having an incredible game. I believe that the Patriots are going to stop Kittle and make sure that he is not who beats them. And with that being said, so I'm out on George Kittle this week in terms of being, a fantasy stud this week. But with that being said, if there is a player that I believe could have an interesting impact this week, and if you're in a pinch, and let's face it, a lot of people are right now, especially with fantasy, the injuries just keep piling up to running backs. Mozart is out. They're saying potentially, 3 to 5 weeks with this ankle injury. And, everybody went right back to McKinnon, and I don't blame you on that. But I have a sneaky suspicion that JaMycal Hasty ends up taking over this backfield. You saw it last week. In last week's game, he was the guy who closed that game out. It wasn't McKinnon. It wasn't Wilson. It was JaMycal Hasty. And that's a player, if you're looking for a flyer this week or you need to grab somebody off the waiver wire, JaMycal Hasty is a very interesting pickup. And I think somebody you could be very happy with. Maybe he doesn't pay a huge dividend this week. But again, this is going to be a multiple week injury for Mostert. I do see some favorable matchups for San Francisco, and I think he could be a sneaky pickup to help propel your fantasy teams. So that's who I like and who I don't like for week 7 in the NFL. And what does that take us into? Well, that takes us into our bold predictions for the week. And my first bold prediction, I said, is we are going to see DeAndre Hopkins get better this week. And I see that to a tune of 150 yards receiving and at least 1 touchdown. But here's the part of the bold prediction, and a loss. 150 yards and at least 1 touchdown and a loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Continuing on, I said I was going to make this a bold prediction, so I'm going to add this one in there. Kareem Hunt this week. I think Kareem Hunt, get ready for it. I'm going with Kareem Hunt with 200 all-purpose yards this week. This is my big, bold prediction. Kareem Hunt, 200 all-purpose yards and at least 1 touchdown, and is the top scoring running back in week 7. Big bold prediction. And I'm not just throwing that out there. Like, I believe in that. I believe in that pick. I'm going to tell you right now, Kareem Hunt will be in a lot of my DFS lineups because I just see this as a complete smash spot for him. And I believe he is going to take advantage of that. You heard it here first. Choose to believe me or choose not to. But if I'm wrong, I'm going to be wrong with you. So, and then this has really nothing to do with statistics. I have a hunch because I fully expect this game to be ugly, that there is a fight on the sidelines, not between the two teams. There is a fight on the sidelines of the Dallas Cowboys this week. They have a rivalry game against Washington. Things are starting to unravel in good old Big D. And I just see tempers starting to flare. When you have players start talking out about coaches, and we're going to get to that when I run out the clock here in a couple minutes, there's going to be a fight on the sideline this week. So, those are my 3 bold predictions for the week. Let's get to our game picks. My lock of the week, look, you pick a lock because it's the easy game. And I know it's a division game, and I try and steer away from these, but I am taking one Buffalo round the wagons Bills. The Buffalo Bills over the New York Jets. The Bills are reeling right now on 2 tough losses against really good opponents. They get a very fortunate, get healthy game this week, and I do believe that the Bills, even though it's a division game, I think they come out and make a statement against the New York hapless Jets. Not that it means Adam Gase will get fired, because apparently that's not capable of happening. I don't know. It blows my mind. But I'm also... Sorry, Tyler, friend of mine, Tennessee Titans fan, but I am picking the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Tennessee Titans. And here's my reasoning. I just think Pittsburgh is a little bit more well-rounded at this point. And the one thing that I feel Tennessee does not have right now is an very good pass rush. I think they have some components, but I think they need more. I think they need more coming from the pass rush, and I don't think they have that right now. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. Not no points, but, in the 20s. And I just think Pittsburgh edges this one out. I even know it's in Tennessee. I get all that, but I'm giving the nod to Pittsburgh. I think Roethlisberger has a ton of weapons in the wide receivers. Deontay Johnson comes back. Connor has been very quietly very, very effective this year. He's top 5 in most categories for running backs, which is great. For those of you who snagged him in some cases the 3rd or 4th round of your fantasy drafts. But Pittsburgh over Tennessee. I'm also going to go with Atlanta keeping the momentum. I think Atlanta starts to right themselves, and you're going to see Atlanta win over Detroit. I think there's a new approach offensively to this team. I think it's going to be a wide-open offense with an opportunistic defense, and I think that's what you saw last week against Minnesota. And although Detroit is not anywhere in the realms of Minnesota, I do think they are vulnerable. And I think Atlanta gets a second win in a row with some great feelings there. I think the team's at just re-energized. So I'm taking the Atlanta Falcons over the Detroit Lions. And then last but not least, we're back to Thursday Night Football. And it's an NFC East game between those Philadelphia Eagles over the New York Giants. Well, from my show, if you haven't put this together, I am taking the Paxioni Pigeons, the Philadelphia Eagles, to beat the New York Giants. Look, when it comes down to it, the Philadelphia Eagles have 2 things that the Giants just don't. One is a not only better defensive line, but almost an all-star level defensive line. It is a strength. It is one of the better ones in the league. And I'm not saying that the Giants' defensive line is bad, but it's not the Philadelphia quality. Philadelphia definitely can get after a passer. And they have one Carson Wentz. And I'm sorry, but Carson Wentz is better than Daniel Jones. So, I don't know what's going on in New York Giants. They are still all about Daniel Jones, and hey, props to them. Again, let the kid learn, let him get his lumps and figure it out. but I just don't see the Giants getting a win in this game. So I'm taking Philly tonight. So with that, it's time to run out the clock. First topic tonight and turning around the clock. Hey, looks like Antonio Bryant is coming back again. Okay, so he had an 8-game suspension. That's just about done. Teams can start negotiating, and apparently Seattle has admitted that they are interested in Antonio Brown, and there's other teams that are interested. I just don't get it. I don't get why, and I guess just talent supersedes everything. But if I am a team like Seattle, you do not have a weakness at wide receiver. And I get, you go for a gluttony of riches, but you have seen that Antonio Brown can be a plague in a locker room. And I just don't know how you just continue to keep skirting this. What you did at that time it was Oakland. What you did when you were on the Raiders. Wanting out of Pittsburgh. Like the diva crybaby wide receiver stuff, like I don't know. I don't have a stomach for it. I really don't. And watch him end up on the Washington football team, which don't get me wrong, we absolutely could use wide receiver help. So it would not surprise me at all if that's where he ends up. I just don't personally get it. I don't get the second, third, and fourth, and fifth chance. And maybe he proves me wrong. Maybe he comes in and he's just a model teammate and puts his nose to the, into the playbook and just works hard. And I just don't know. Maybe I've become cynical and I don't want to give that second chance, or I don't want to take it's not that I don't want to give the second chance. I personally, if I'm a coach or GM, I don't want to take that chance. But it looks like AB's coming back. If you want to take the gamble, and I guess it's a decent gamble, this is the week to pick him up in your fantasy leagues. I'm not. I'm staying away from AB. So I just don't think he's going to take up a roster spot until he gets up to speed with the team. I just don't see the upside to it. Short of him becoming a number one option on a team because of injury or something to do with that. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me too. I know you keep hearing Seattle. It wouldn't surprise me to see him go back to New England. It's not like New England is brimming with wide receiver talent. And, I know he had a thing with Tom Brady and he wanted to play with Tom Brady, but he seemed to appreciate the New England time there, although there is contract issues. Oh, and let's not forget, those contract issues have not been resolved yet. Buyer beware. My next. Dallas. Woo. How the mighty have fallen in Dallas. You were supposed to be the cream of the crop this year. And don't get me wrong, when Dak was there, you at least were putting up points and making it look like there was a shot. First game with Andy Dalton, wow, dropped the ball. And then it comes out that players are saying the coaches don't know what they're doing. That's a big, bold statement for your new hire. It's not like this guy's been there a while. This was the guy, Jerry, that you brought in there to fix this team that was going to lead you to the promised land. And you have players coming out saying that they're not prepared, that they don't know what they're doing, they don't coach. And then Mike McCarthy says, well, anytime you hear any discontent, you want to, oh, what a bunch of freaking lip speak. It is unraveling in Big D. And I don't see that getting any better this week. And I know they're playing a team that they absolutely can beat. They could absolutely come in there and trounce Washington because, let's face it, Washington sometimes looks just as bad. But this could get ugly really quick. I know the game script for this would make it seem like this is a week where you pick Dallas. You absolutely pick Dallas because with all the malcontent, they come out and they get better and get healthy. I don't see it. I really don't. The offensive line has fallen apart. And if this is anything, it goes to show you if you want to build a winning team in the NFL, if you want a team that is going to compete in the NFL, put together a damn good defense and a strong offensive line. And then put your pieces around that. That's my belief. If I was a GM, that's absolutely how I'd be doing it. Because there's so many. Do you think, in all honesty, Titans fans, do you think Ryan Tannehill is an elite quarterback? I don't. I think he's a very good quarterback, but he's behind a great offensive line. Well, we'll say a good offensive line now. Unfortunately, losing Taylor Lewan is going to hurt, but that's what I'm saying. You don't always need to have the top quarterback in the league. You don't always need to have the Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, Dallas, pull it together, figure it out, because it doesn't look good right now. It really does not look good. And then, for my final kneel down, I want to talk about crazy fans. And don't get me wrong, every franchise has their crazy fans. It's inevitable. Washington has them. Philadelphia absolutely has them. Heard them from New York. I've heard them from even New England. But this is a whole new level of crazy. And maybe it just comes down to the fact that I don't know. I'm stuttering here. I'm baffled by this. So this week in sports radio in Wisconsin, Green Bay, there's people actually calling for Aaron Rodgers to be benched off of one loss. One loss. And you want to bench potentially one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league for love? I don't know what's going on in Green Bay, but you're nuts. Buddy of mine, Cody, I know you're a cheesehead. I know you have more sense than this. I know you have more sense than this. But your fellow fans out there, why? Why? The disrespect to Aaron Rodgers. I'm not a Green Bay fan. I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan, to be perfectly honest. But the disrespect to Aaron Rodgers, dear God, you have to have some thick skin to play quarterback in this league. Not only do they do nothing to help you in the first round this year, but pick up your future replacement, but now you have to listen to them because you have one bad game. One bad game. You were undefeated up to that point. You were being heralded as a potential league MVP this year. I can't wrap my head around that. That is just insane. And it wasn't one person. This was multiple people calling in to sports radio. I'm hoping they're plants. I'm just hoping they're plants. I'm hoping that this is the radio station trying to get ratings and trying to get people listening so they have people call in and act that stupid. Well, I'm not a Green Bay fan. So, since I'm not a Green Bay fan, please, go ahead, Green Bay. Bench Aaron Rodgers, because we need a quarterback. And I would love for you to bench Aaron Rodgers and for him to ask for his release or to be traded at the end of the year. And that is a quarterback I would love for us to get in Washington. I'm pretty sure there is at least 25 teams in the NFL that would probably kick the tires on an Aaron Rodgers. So that's our show. I hope you guys enjoyed this week. I hope the player likes and dislikes help you out. Of course, if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button. Like the video. Please share the video. Spread the word. Tell your friends. If you haven't done so yet, follow us so you don't miss out on any of our videos. And then come back on Tuesday so we can find out how we did or didn't do. If you have questions, if you have comments about the show, if you agree or disagree, please let me know in the comments. But for Mark D, this is the First and 10 Club, and let's go football.